Not so new litigation procedure. Brian, good afternoon. What has come out of this meeting in Naivasha?
Good afternoon, Michelle. And yeah, like we put it, it's been a long session here, a long conference of different prosecutors from across the country trying to just understand how they are going to be carrying out their day-to-day jobs as prosecutors working in the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And of course, today what really came out strongly was not just to do with the plea bargain agreement that is stipulated or rather set out in the criminal procedure under Section 137A to Section 137O on how this is going to be conducted, but also DPP Nurdin Hajji has also contested what we saw in court yesterday when some lawyers attached to the DCJ case claimed that the Queen's Counsel could not stand, or rather could not be part of the trial we saw yesterday. He has also talked about the fact that they are going to court to challenge procedures of charging graft and state officers remaining in office even after they have been charged with fraud while in office. But to just help us understand better what this is about, what the plea bargain agreement session or rather conference we've seen here, which we have well said that it's not not so new. I'm now being joined by Vincent Monda. Vincent Monda is the head of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in Kilifi County, and we are glad that you're joining us live on News Desk right now. Could you just take us through in a very short time what the plea bargain agreement conference has been about?
Okay, this conference in essence has been about the plea bargain guidelines for prosecutors as well as explanatory notes. Remember that on the 19th of February this year, the Attorney General gazetted the plea bargain rules, and therefore the purpose of this particular conference is that we want the prosecutors to understand the guidelines as well as explanatory notes so that there is uniformity and consistency in the way we'll apply these plea agreements. So that's the essence of this particular conference. And in this particular conference, there are 47 heads of counties, because they will be the main persons tasked with rolling out these particular guidelines as well as the explanatory notes. Yes.
So what we are basically talking about is that you are going to enter into agreements with accused persons. But how does this help the criminal procedure? How does it help the criminal trials?
The first thing you may realize that at the beginning of this year, we did a remand review exercise. And we found out that a huge number of remandees, close to maybe 55% of the population, and therefore when we went round, we found out that some of these cases could be easily resolved by way of plea agreements. So one way the plea agreements are going to assist in this criminal process is, first of all, decongesting the prison facilities, and secondly, helping in expediting cases and therefore reducing the backlog. Yes.
So are there any disadvantages maybe linked to this, because you are reducing charges or entering into agreements with people whom I understand one of the requirements is that the prosecutor needs to have met the evidential threshold. So you have enough evidence to actually charge these people for all the crimes you are taking them in court for?
Yes, I would say to the prosecutor it is an advantage, because first and foremost your case has met both the evidentiary threshold as well as the public interest threshold, and therefore whether or not the accused person takes up the offer, as a prosecutor you can still proceed with your case knowing very well that the prospect of conviction is very high. So for us, what we are saying is that plea agreement is a tool to be used by the prosecutor where he feels that in the interests of justice and to ensure that they expedite the trial process, then they can negotiate with an accused person. So what I'm emphasizing here is that, remember, the prosecutor is negotiating with an accused person. So charges must have been registered
in court.
In court.
Thank you so much. Vincent Monda is the head of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in Kilifi County, telling us just about these new guidelines that are being rolled out to ensure uniformity in bargaining, in the plea bargaining agreements that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions is seeking to engage in. And just to, as we close this up, is that there are also ways that have been set out in that criminal procedure, as I had said earlier in sections 137, on how these can actually be terminated. Either parties can actually terminate the plea bargain agreement when there are cases of fraud, cases of coercion, cases of fraud, coercion, and when there actually has been established that that non-factual information has been given to the prosecutor or either of the parties. Michelle.
Many thanks, reporter Brian Buethe live from Naivasha. Now moving on, African unions